welcome to City Life. It's really good to have you here with us today. The first half of our program is a special edition of City Life. Jill Darcey, the founder of the Complex Family Foundation. Welcome to City Life.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming to Christchurch for this episode as well.
Thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. Now, firstly, this is a topic that I'm just not aware of. You have to teach me all about it. My parents have been together for 35 years. I'm not married or divorced. My brother and sister are both married as well. I've got one niece, so I just don't have that. I'm not in that in that zone, I guess you'd say. So you'll have to teach me all about this.
With pleasure, but it's lovely to hear that we've got these sort of traditional families that are staying together for years. It's fantastic.
Okay, so let's first of all talk about the foundation.
Well, Complex Family, what we do is we sit inside the lounges of thousands of New Zealanders that have gone through divorce or separation. And what I do is I teach people basically how to shift their thinking from all that really negative, toxic stuff that goes on, how to heal their hurts, because most of the time we've been absolutely heartbroken and devastated through what we've done. And then we actually teach them how to co-parent. So you might not get on with your ex, but you have got children with them. So we learn how to do that constructively.
Okay, so why did you start up this foundation?
Thank you. Well, good question from personal experience. When I went through a divorce sort of coming up 12 years ago, I found there was a lot of really negative stuff out there, but there wasn't a lot of help on how do you do this constructively, and then how do you constructively take your children on this journey that is with them for life, because we all know once we've been through a divorce that you can outlive marriage, but you cannot outlive the bond that is created when you make babies with someone. And so we had to try and work out, wow, what do I do? And so I looked at that sort of very deep, dark doorway called divorce and thought, right, I need to find a better way, because the current way of doing it is really destructive and the stats are just awful that happens. So it was for me to sit back and think, how would I best do this for the children? And then that progressed through counselling and coaching of other parents. And so in the end, it was actually a group of people who just said to me, can you just write this down in a book? And as I started writing the book, there was so much information. Actually, my husband was the one who said, please stop at some stage, because no one wants to read 800 pages in one book. So let's just cap it, do the 400 pages, and then we can set up a foundation where you can carry on teaching everyone. So that's how it came into being.
So it's all from your own experience?
Yeah, and the experience of the thousands of people that I've helped.
Okay. So you have one-on-one counselling sessions with these people, or is it just through your books that people sort of learn to heal?
There's a whole range that we do. So I do seminars, workshops, one-on-one counselling. We do coaching over a course of months, and through books, if you can go online, there's video programs, there's all sorts of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the most common problems parents are facing when parenting with an ex?
Well, there are sort of a raft of maybe a top 10, but let's just deal with 3, because these are the biggies that most people come to me with. And the first one, not surprising really in these circumstances, is communication. Let's face it, if there is a breakdown in the relationship, normally it's because of communication. So that's number 1. Number 2 is actually about money. People we all want more of it, and if we can make someone else hurt by us gaining it, then that seems good strategy to get back at people. So money is a biggie. And the third is actually routines. So routines, we're talking about here of custody, who goes where, when, for how long, with who. And that is just a really complex thing to sort out as well.
Okay, so communication, money and routines.
That's your top 3.
Big 3. What else is in the top 10?
So we'll look at things like step parents, because obviously that comes into new relationships and how we deal with that with children, with more children possibly. We can go into things like discipline. How do you discipline in different environments? What happens if one ex is poisoning your children against the other? Another really big one is, what do I do about double standards in each home? You know, my ex lets them get away with things that I just fundamentally disagree with. So the list can just go on.
Okay. Do you find yourself writing more and more books, holding more and more seminars about these, just as you go along and you learn these new things?
Yes, I do, and I've got another book in progress at the moment, just because, there's more to tell, more stories that need to be out there.
Okay. Why is it so hard to parent post-divorce?
I think the fundamental difference is when you are married, and as you've probably witnessed plenty because your family's all together, when you're married, you tend to overlook the things that aren't working, and you have this way of thinking, well, long term it's okay. When you're divorced, suddenly that's reversed, and you will not overlook the things that aren't working. In fact, what you do is you overlook the things that are working. And so that's a fundamental difference that we go through. And so what we need to do, that's why we start trying to change your thinking, because you need to be able to see some of the things that are still working.
Okay. Can you still be friends? I've got to ask, can you still be friends with the person you've divorced?
Depends on circumstances a lot of the time. Some people are so heartbroken, they feel betrayed, they feel rejected. There's all sorts of reasons as to why marriage splits up. But you can still be in a respectful relationship. You can respect your differences. You don't have to agree. You don't even have to decide to compromise. But what you can do is you can be respectful towards the other parent of your child.
Okay. Now, you are Auckland-based,
yes,
but you will have received, I'm going to guess, more calls from people in Christchurch following the earthquakes. Would that be right?
You are absolutely right. We are Auckland-based, however, we do go throughout the country, and we have had a lot of calls post-earthquakes. Real complexities that are coming in here, and raw. You know, everyone's very highly emotional. We know that you're exhausted because of what you lived through. And people are sitting there with real big issues of, let's say, Dad's lost his home and he's lost his job, and now he's going to relocate to go and live with family. And one particular example that I've had recently, he's relocating to go and live in Nelson with his family, and he's been here with the children for the last 6 years. And now, of course, the ex-wife is going to be left with looking after the children here because she's still got a home, she's still got her job, and she's not ready to move because the rest of her family's here. So very real, very raw. Now the children are in a position where they're not going to be seeing their dad as much, and how do you cope with that?
How do you coach people through that kind of thing?
Well, really we take it one step at a time as to where they're at, what their angst is. So we need to understand why there's an issue, you know, and then how can we look at it and really take it one step at a time with them. Talk about real situations, real events that they can then manage and control, because so much of Christchurch is out of control. It's beyond anyone's control. And so we try and reduce that level of anger that some people are really feeling and saying, okay, these are things you can't control, here's what you can. Now let's work through that.
Okay, what are some of the other issues coming out of Christchurch at the moment?
Money. You know, huge problems with money. People have really lost incomes, they've lost lifestyles, they've lost all sorts of massive changes. So money is a big one that we're having to come to. A lot more people going on to welfare, in which case that's really affected the feeling that they've let their children down. They don't know how to handle the children's fear. A lot of children aren't sleeping well, or they're withdrawing. They're not, they're sort of turning to their peers more than they're turning to their parents. So yeah, those sorts of issues.
Okay, so you do have a high number of calls coming from Christchurch?
Yeah.
And do they go onto your website? I mean, how are the other ways that people can find out about getting through the earthquake at the moment?
Certainly our website, so complexfamily.com, that's a good way. And a lot of it has been through word of mouth, actually.
All right. Okay, after the break, we're going to talk about the biggest problems for divorced parents.
Great.
Back soon.